Hello. In this series of videos, I'll try to talk about the my experiences here at WITS regarding my postdoc in particle physics. So I'll try my best to upload once every week for updates on what's happening on the physics side and life here in South Africa and so on. Okay. First and foremost, again, a little background. I'm supposed to do a postdoc on particle physics here at University of the Witwatersrand, even though my initial dissertation, my expertise basically is on quantum information. Okay, and I really have some a weird thing here when I get introduced to people who are experts in particle physics. You're the new postdoc, so what problem will you be working on? Because if you're a postdoc, you're supposed to be bringing a fresh problem to them, or you already have something in your mind that you're willing to work on. Okay, but I don't have that because it's not my field of expertise. And so thankfully, I'm really very lucky and very thankful that the my hosts in here in South Africa are very willing to accommodate me, even though it will take more effort to sort of hone me, because basically I begin at the very basic of particle physics. And so basically my main host, an Indian guy, is named Deepakar, Dr. Deepakar. And he was the first guy who I was in correspondence with him for almost 1 year before I went here for my postdoc. And he was introduced to me by Dr. Ian Vega, which is uh, a professor in the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Okay, and so Deepakar will be one of my advisors. He's part of the Atlas collaboration in CERN, but since me doing a postdoc here, the purpose is that when I go back to the Philippines, currently we don't have a dedicated group there that do particle physics. So the purpose is when I go back, I'll be able to establish my very own laboratory that will work exclusively on particle physics. So Depakar, he's an experimentalist, but he's working on Atlas. But since it is experimental, he told me that if I go back there, it's not really something that will be very useful if I'll be setting up a lab for the first time. So maybe in the future I can collaborate with him with experimental things. So, but mainly what he will be teaching me is machine learning as applied to particle physics. Okay, so that will be his side, but he won't be my sole supervisor. Actually, there are three of them. My triumvirate sensei in particle physics. So you have Dr. Depakar. The other one is Dr. Jong-soo Kim. He will be teaching me phenomenology, and currently he's in CERN right now. But he's a theorist, and he's really very good. He's I believe, he's one of the makers of the Checkmate program that is used in particle physics. And then Jung is really a very nice guy. He's Korean, and when I first saw him, he has a long hair. I have long hair as well, so that's very cool. And the first time we met, he saw the wallpaper on my cell phone. My cell phone, the lock screen has Iron Maiden as the wallpaper, and when he saw it, he's like, "Oh, I listen to Iron Maiden as well," and I'm like. I see you're a man of metal as well, right? So yeah, Jung is a very cool guy. And then finally, we have Dr. Alan Cornell, who is he's mainly working on very the foundations and the theoretical formalisms of a QFT and particle physics. So he will be my sensei on the very hardcore theoretical sides. Okay, so I'll be spending 2 years with these guys, and for my first week here, so I've already been here for um almost 2 weeks. So I'm gonna in this video I'm gonna relate what happened during my first week. So basically, since upon arriving at the University of Witwatersrand, the first thing that I had to do is do some administrative paperwork. So process everything related to your identification, faculty numbers, so I process here like my ID. You really need the university is very strict in their like gates and so on. The security is very tight, so you need IDs to get in. I also processed my grant for that will like sort of sustain me for the rest of my postdoc days, and some other related, paperworks like my lodging for the next month, because my lodging here currently is temporary. It was paid for by the School of Physics, but then next time it will come from my grant. So I look for something that's a little bit cheaper, right? So that's the first half of the week. But then after like I was sort of already done with the most of the paperwork, so Jong already he like interviewed me my backgrounds in physics basically, and he began giving me like problems related to particle physics. So basically we used the textbook Quarks and Leptons by Hausen and Martin, and then there are like specific problems that he told me like that I needed to be familiar with, that I needed to be able to solve in order to appreciate what we'll be doing later on. Okay, so these are like the stepping stones. So basically, like solving scattering cross sections from basic Feynman diagrams like E minus to E plus, and then electron muon scattering, and then do Feynman diagrams from the do the calculations of the scattering cross section from the Feynman diagram, and so on, how to solve for the amplitude and so forth. Yeah, it looks intimidating at first, but the nice thing is that's being a postdoc, like you don't really do anything else. Like I just go to the School of Physics, sit down, and then solve. So I have a lot of time to do it. Okay, and so during my first week, like the last half of my first week, basically solving problems and reading up on stuff that I will be needing as I move forward, when I'll be introduced to the main tools that we'll be using when doing the real work in particle physics, right? So that's basically what happens. And so now I'm gonna having said that, I'm gonna also relate some of the things that I noticed here in South Africa when I arrived, like what are new in their culture and so on. And basically, the most striking thing that I learned, Deepak told me this, like he tutored me, but basically, every time you do an interaction here in South Africa, like if you buy a fast food or you see someone across the street, you like uh it's part of the culture here that you should say something like, hey, how are you, or so before, for example, you're buying food, before you're like, I want fries or I want burger, you should first say, hey, hello, how are you, how's your day? I'm fine, how about you? So yeah, like it's like part of their culture here. So if you're like you don't do that, it's like a massive disrespect, right? So you have to do it. So when you ask for like directions, hey, how are you, I'm fine, good, and you, like that, then before you proceed to your main topic of discourse. Okay, so another thing is that I found fascinating here is that South Africa is 6 hours behind the Philippines. So, for example, if it's like 12 noon there, then it's like 6 a.m. here. And the funny thing is that while I was in UP Diliman, I've been basically when I was teaching, typically I get subjects that are being taught in the afternoon, because like I'm not a morning person. So typically in Manila, I sleep very late, like 3 a.m., 4 a.m., and then I wake up like 11 a.m., 12 noon. So basically, I don't eat any breakfast straight to lunch in Manila. Okay. And so the funny thing is that, that sleeping habit is like, it's like me preparing myself for the time slot here, because me waking up at 12 noon in Manila means that since it's 6 hours behind in South Africa, it means that waking up here like at 6 a.m. is like very easy. It's like my body is used to it. And then like here around like 9 p.m., 10 p.m., like I get sleepy already, which is 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in Manila. So yeah, so I was happy that that worked really well. So what else? The traffic here is reversed. So like when you the driver's seat is on the other side as opposed to the Philippines. So like when I cross the road, like you look at the upcoming vehicles, the incoming vehicles. But then since I'm used to them passing on the other side, like at first I'm gonna look at the wrong one, so I'm always like extra cautious when I'm crossing the street because it's inverted. And also they're really strict here with their seat belts, like Deepak said. The first time I rode in his car, I'm just like, yeah, and he was like looking at me and like, hey, you put your seatbelt, because like he told me that they take those things seriously here, right? The seatbelt. And then the what else? The groceries here and food and so forth is like a bit on the expensive side when compared to the Philippines, but not that much. But yeah, it's a bit on the expensive side. And the new thing, the new fascinating thing that I have found here is that, like, typically in the Philippines, when we have like canteen, usually we have food. How much is this? That's the price, like 50 pesos or something, right? Here, the price, you don't like say, how much is this? It's not like that. The price is not like, it depends on the store, but in the canteen that I'm like currently eating, typically the prices depends on the mass of what you're eating. So you get rice, so like they'll put rice on your plate until you say stop, and then they'll like weigh it, and then depends on the weight, then you're basically paying different prices every time you eat. Okay, so that's one. And as you can see, like, I don't typically wear jacket, but man, it's so cold here. So I don't know, I was told that it's like approaching winter or winter period during these times, like May. So yeah, they're like, they said that this is typically the coldest period. But I was really surprised when like I went out for the first time from the airport. It's like everything outside is like air conditioned, like in the Philippines, like when you go out, like, it's so hot, but then when you enter the mall, it's like, wow, it's so cold, and so on. So here it's inverted, right? So when you go out, it's like you're entering the mall with the very cold aircon. So yeah, so during my first night here, like I told myself, I like cold so much and like that, so I didn't turn on the heater. The next day, like, man, it is really so cold, so I had to turn it on. What else? They had a very weird looking outlet. It's like three big prongs that is like nothing I've ever seen before. So typically we have like the two flat prong one, and then the one with the ground, the one with the two round ones. But here it's so weird, right? So good thing. What I did is I knew it's gonna be different, so I bought an extension wire that can accommodate three separate outlets that could accommodate my plugs, and then I bought a single adapter that converts the plug in the Philippines to the outlet here. So yeah, it's all fine. What else? The physics here I love because they have this free coffee like every 10:30 a.m. So you just go there with your cup, and then in the afternoon at 3 p.m. So in UP Diliman, we usually have free coffees if there are like meetings or there are like events like thesis defense and so on. But here it's like every day, so I don't like have to buy. In Manila, I keep buying this like 3-in-1 coffee. Here I have them like for breakfast when I want to drink coffee for breakfast. But yeah, coffee is basically free. Another fascinating thing that I found that is free here is like the first time I went to the male CR, right? There's like a box. So I'm a curious, like I look at inside the box, and it's a box full of condoms, man. So when I read the condom, it's like an organization that fights AIDS. So you have that here, which is very fascinating. So if you need it, you like just go to the male CR. There's a free condom there. So at least in physics. So I don't know if it's like true in all toilet in general, but in the physics one, there's a box there that have like a box full of free condoms. What else? In going to school, the bus is free. So during my first days, the pack was kind enough to, when I wasn't familiar first with the area, he was kind enough to like fetch me in his car and then going to school. But then he taught me where the buses are. So they are on a very strict schedule, and they are free, right? In UP Diliman, we have like jeepneys there that go around the campus, but you pay for it. Here, no, it's like for free. So you go in there, and then yeah, then it's fairly regular, right? You have trips there like all until the evening. Okay, so so far it's really fascinating here. Now in the second week, like I'm like installing a lot of programs and tools that will be needed analyze scattering cross sections that is more than a two body, and then to a two body decay, two mother particles to two daughter particles. Basically, you can do that by hand, but later on it will be later on they could have like a shower of particles, like parton showers, and it's a nightmare to do them by hand. So that's why we have these different tools that I needed to do. And so that's it. So I'll be back to report again next week. Hopefully I can do this fairly regularly. So next week I'm gonna post again an update on what's happening here with my postdoc. Okay, and so this is Marvin Flores, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. Yeah.